We now come to the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita from text 27 to 35. In text 37 to 27 to 35, Krishna gives you a summary of the 13th chapter. The 13th chapter is a very important chapter because while the methods and techniques of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, etc., have been given in the earlier part of the Bhagavad-Gita, both the soul and the Lord have been discussed. In the 13th chapter, Krishna gives you the integration of the darshanas. He describes the metaphysics. He describes how the different darshanas of the Vedas, particularly Sankhya, Vedanta, and the Narayaniya philosophy of Krishna Bhakti, how they all blend together. And so far we have discussed that all of them are important, and clearly, even while he's describing each of them, he calls all of them anadi, which is without beginning. So all of them are eternal. So we have Sankhya with Purush and Prakriti. We have it subsumed or layered over by Vedanta, which talks about Brahman, which includes both Purush and Prakriti. And then we have Bhagavan or Krishna, who is Matparam, who is beyond Brahman, who in the last verse of the 14th chapter is Brahmano hi pratishtaham. He is the source of Brahman, the rest of Brahman, the origin of Brahman. And the same Bhagavan enters into the philosophy of Sankhya by entering into every individual and being his companion, which was described in the earlier sessions. Upadishta anumantascha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyokto dehesmin purushapara. That Krishna is your companion, as described earlier in the Shvetashvara and the Mandukya Upanishad. Dva suparna sauja sakhya samanam vriksha parishasvajati. Tayor anya pipalam swadvatya anashtan tayor abhichikasati. There are two birds seated on the tree in your heart. One is the Paramatma, and one is you, the Jivatma. The Jivatma is busy looking to the fruits of the tree. Some are sweet, some are tasteless, and some are bitter. But when he turns his face from the fruits of the tree and turns himself to the companion beside him, then he knows peace. It's a very powerful allegory because in your heart and mine, and in the hearts of all living beings, not only is there an individual soul, but there is also the Paramatma. So this has been established in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. And now we will see that Krishna now continues summarizing the 13th chapter. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavar jangamam kshetra kshetrajna samyogat tad vidhi bharatarshava. O chief of the Bharatas, he says, Krishna says, whatever you see in existence, both moving and non-moving, is nothing but the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. The field of activities is Prakriti, and the knower of the field is Purush, the individual Purush. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tistantam parameshwaram vinashyatsva avinashyantam yaha pashyati sa pashyati. Having clarified that there is both the Prakriti and the individual Purush, now Krishna explains and reiterates, he reaffirms, he reestablishes that accompanying that Jivatma, accompanying that individual Purush, accompanying the individual soul, accompanying that Kshetrajna is the Paramatma. And he sees and he says, they alone truly see who will see the Paramatma accompanying the Jivatma in all beings and who understand both of them to be imperishable in this perishable body. So he has established that the constant companion of the individual soul is the super soul. The companion of the individual Kshetrajna is the Sarva Kshetrajna. He has established that the Jivatma is accompanied by the Paramatma. And those who can see this, Krishna says, are those who truly see. Then he goes on to say, Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavashtitam ishwaram na hinashti atmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. So one who sees the Paramatma in every individual living being and equal everywhere does not degrade himself by the mind. Thus he approaches the supreme transcendental destination. So this is the key. The key is not just to know that the Paramatma is seated in every heart as a companion of the Kshetrajna or the individual soul or the Jivatma, but it is that you should be able to see that super soul, that Paramatma, everywhere. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sa cha me na pranashyati. One who sees me in all beings and sees all beings in me, I am never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. Very, very important. And he sees them all as equal. And what do you mean by seeing them all as equal? Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavi hastini shuni chaiva swapake cha pandita samadarshinaha. The Pandit is one who sees with a mind full of wisdom. He sees transcendental vision, he's got Jnana Chakshu. And then he sees the Brahmana, the saintly person. He sees the cow, the elephant, the dog, and the dog eater. He sees them all with equal vision. The other thing that one sees and one knows is that one does nothing and that Prakriti does everything. This is integral to the understanding of the Bhagavad-Geeta. We think that we are the doers We think that the world rests on our shoulders. We believe that we are doing everything and we pull up our collar in pride, in puffed up arrogance. But indeed, throughout the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is explaining that you do nothing, Prakriti does everything. Right in the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita, he says, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered living entity, the bewildered Kshetrajna, the bewildered Jivatma, the bewildered individual Purush, imagines he is the doer of activities which indeed are performed by Prakriti. When he is a realized soul, as a Karma Yogi, he says, Naiva kinchit karomiti. I don't do anything. Everything, eating, sleeping, consuming, smelling, touching, tasting is done by Prakriti. I do nothing. He also goes on later to say, Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangasya sad asad yoni janmasu. Even this birth and rebirth is the result of your attachment to Prakriti, your misidentification with Prakriti. So, carried by Prakriti, you move from one gross body to another gross body, carrying your subtle body with you. Karya karanam kartritve hetur Prakriti uchyate. Purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktritva hetur uchyate. Everything is performed by Prakriti. But you imagine that you are the doer, therefore you enjoy and you suffer. Instead, you should be sakshi. You should be witness. And why should a inert body like Prakriti be moving around so much? Who gives it that power, that intelligence, the direction? Krishna says, I think in 9.10, very clearly Krishna mentions, Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. Krishna points out very clearly there that I am the Adhyaksh, I am the administrator, I am the controller, I am the director of Prakriti. And I control all living and non-living entities. Further, Krishna points out that if you don't realize this, that Prakriti is doing everything, you will struggle against Prakriti and you will truly have a time of suffering because you're only a fragment of me. Mamaivaso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashasthendriyani prakriti sthani karshati. You cannot control Prakriti. Prakriti does everything and you do nothing. And indeed, you can't even control it. Daivi esa gunamai mama maya duratyaya mamevaya prapadyante mayametam tarantite. Indeed, Krishna says, this Prakriti you cannot control because it is my Daiva Shakti. It is divinely empowered by me. Only by surrendering unto me you can cross beyond it. So this is another important concept. One, that everything consists of Prakriti and Purush. Two, that every individual is accompanied by the Paramatma, and that Paramatma is there everywhere, in every body. And indeed, he points out that everything is done by Prakriti, nothing is done by you. In text 31, Krishna says, Yada bhut pritak bhavam ekastam anupashyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tatha. When the intelligent person ceases to see the different identities which are due to different material bodies, when you stop focusing on when you stop focusing on Prakriti, when you stop focusing on that which attracts your attention all the time, that which you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, when you stop focusing on all that you can sense, and instead of seeing these differences that are constantly changing, these material bodies that are constantly changing, and become aware of that Paramatma seated in the hearts of all, he attains to the Brahman conception. Thus he sees that the souls are expanded everywhere. So he understands that divinity is expanded everywhere, and Prakriti is merely the veil. Prakriti is merely that which covers the soul that lies beneath. So stop focusing on Prakriti. Try to see what lies beneath, and you will attain to the Brahman conception of life. And then you will see that anaditvat nirgunatvat paramatma avyayam avyayah sharirastha api kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. When you have this vision of the all-pervading Brahman, you will see that the soul is transcendental beyond Prakriti. It is eternal. It is beyond the gunas of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, which we will come to in the next chapter. And despite being in contact with Prakriti, the individual Kshetrajna, the Jivatma, the individual Purush, does nothing. And it is not entangled. It's only by its illusion of misidentification that it appears that way. And what is the relationship of the soul to Prakriti? That is described in text 33. In text 33, Krishna points out, Yatha sarvagatam sakshmad akasham nopalipyate sarvatra avastito dehe tathatma nopalipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything. Although this sky appears to be all-pervading. Similarly, the soul that is situated in Brahman vision, the soul that is realized its identity as part of the super soul, as part of Bhagavan, that soul does not mix with the body, although situated within the body. So that soul which has realized its spiritual identity does not mix with the physical body, although situated within it. You will see later where Krishna describes Dva imau purushau loke ksharas aksharas evacha sharas sarvani bhutani kutasto aksharas uchyate. There are two types of entities. one who is mortal, one who is subject to birth and death, who imagines he is born and imagines he dies. That individual soul is called mortal or perishable or sharas. And the other who has realized his spiritual identity, that one is known as aksharas. Why is he called kutasto? Kutasto means the anvil. The blacksmith puts the molten iron on the anvil and hammers it into the shape that he wants. And the anvil is not changed, it is not altered, it is not affected. So also one who is aksharas, one who realizes spiritual identity. He remains the same in joy and sorrow and heat and cold and honor and dishonor and pain and pleasure. Because he realizes he is not this body, but he is the soul. So while he is situated within the body, this Aksharas Purush, this individual soul who has realized his spiritual identity, does not mix with the Prakriti, even though it is situated within it. But that individual Purush is not Paramatma. Uttama Purushatva Anya Paramatmeti Udaritah Yo Lokotrayam Avishya Bibhartya Avyaya Ishvaraha. Again, this is reiterated that this individual soul who has realized his immortality is not the Paramatma. That is Anya, Uttama Purusha, the supreme Purush. Tva Anya, he is separate, he is distinct from that. He is called Paramatma. And he is sustaining and maintaining creation. And now he explains how the individual soul illuminates the entire Purush, the entire Prakriti of the body with light, with consciousness, with the light of consciousness. Yatha prakashayatya ekah kritsnam lokam imam ravi. Kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayatya bharata. O son of Bharata, just as the sun alone illuminates the solar system, so does a living entity within one body illuminate the entire body with consciousness. It does not mix with Prakriti, but it illuminates this Prakriti of the body and mind and intelligence with consciousness. Kshetra kshetragnyor evam antaram jnana chakshusa bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye vidur yanti te param. So one who clearly understands, who knows the difference between the body and the owner of the body, the Prakriti and the Purush, the individual Purush, the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, and who can understand the process of liberation from this bondage, and one who understands the process of liberation from this bondage, that is practical realization of the its spiritual reality. That is explained in the 14th chapter, how it attains freedom from Prakriti. Mam chayo avhyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitetan brahma bhuya kalpate. That when you are engaged without failing, without deviating, in devotion towards the Lord, One transcends the Prakriti, one transcends the gunas and attains the spiritual platform. So with this, I will conclude the 35th text of the 13th chapter. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Yes, sir. Good morning. So we now know that one does nothing and Prakriti does everything. So two things I want to ask. One is that it does this go for everything, all the emotions, love, anger, jealousy, lust, everything. And the other thing I want to ask is,
You
how do
ask
we
one at a
stop?
time because it's difficult to
Okay,
combine
sir. Please
questions.
go ahead.
So what is your question? Be clear about it.
So, does this include everything, all the emotions, love, anger, jealousy, lust, everything we go through on an everyday basis?
One really goes through emotions as a result of misidentification with Prakriti. Okay. When Prakriti is undisturbed, there are no emotions. When Prakriti is disturbed because you are struggling with Prakriti, trying to control Prakriti, then emotions arise. Today, in modern psychology also, there is a lady by the name of Elizabeth Feldman Barrett who has described that emotions don't arise spontaneously. Emotions arise when we construct them, when we create them from our memories, from our expectations, from the fairy tales we heard when we were little children, from all the stories of romance and the Netflix movies you've seen. All of that creates the background for you to construct the emotion. But the construction of the emotion is entirely due to you. You create that emotion because you have misidentified with Prakriti. It's when you watch a movie in a theater. Is there any reason for you to feel anger when the hero is angry? Is there any reason for you to feel romance when he is romancing or she is romancing the hero? No, there's no need. But your misidentification creates those emotions. So it is the misidentification of Purush with Prakriti that creates emotion. And that is really the cause of suffering.
Hmm.
So when you cease to identify with the movie screen and what's going on the movie screen, then you will be at peace. So when you realize that you are the Purush, that you are the Kshetrajna, not the Kshetra, then you will be at peace.
Right.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir. And my second question, part of the question also you have answered is that how do we stop focusing on it? You said
Hmm.
one should stop focusing on
So
Prakriti.
that's what this 13th chapter says, that when you realize that you are the witness,
Hmm.
then automatically those things cease.
Right. Okay,
All
sir.
right. Hari
Okay,
Om.
thank you. Hari
Jai
Om.
Shri Krishna.
Thank
Hari
you. Jai
Krishna.
Shri Krishna.